Okay, so we're about 4,000 meters up in the mountains of Qinghai, and we're watching a Pallas's cat. And I'm here with the family and with Zizi, who runs a tour company over here, and with Robai, who has the eyes of an eagle and somehow spotted this tiny cat way off in the distance. And we've just been following it as it walks across the landscape, probably about 300 meters away from us. And it's snowing and it's breezy. You can probably hear the wind. And it's a really good day.
So I'm deep in the Gouli Mountains. I think that's how you say it. It's a few days into my trip. This is quite a remote area of Yunnan where very few Westerners have been. It hasn't really been on the tourist or even the birding circuit until recently, right on the border with Myanmar. It's a hell of a place. We had to navigate various landslides on the road. And I'm here with my friend Qian Wu, who is going to introduce himself.
Hey guys, my name's Yi Qian, and I'm a mammal watcher in China. I do some wildlife surveys and also some nature education work in China. Mm-hmm.
And you also run a big WeChat group of Chinese mammal watchers.
Yes. I'm the founder of that WeChat group. We have like 500 mammal watchers from all over China.
And you are unofficially known as the Mammal Lord, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. That's how people call me in Chinese.
Quite right, too. I think you are the Mammal Lord.
You are the mammal watching lord.
So Ichan took us to an amazing place today, like I said. And we were looking for short ridges langurs.
Yeah.
And we found them, didn't we?
Yes. We were so lucky because this place is very hard to reach, and so it was raining all day. But that group of short range langurs were just had been staying the same place for quite a few days. So when the rain stopped and we got there, and they were just chilling out on the slope.
They were far away, but it took literally 10 seconds to find them when we got out of the car.
Yeah.
At the place that Ichan recommended.
Yeah. Yeah, from some local people.
Local knowledge.
Local
knowledge once again is key. Yeah. Excellent. To be continued.
Yeah. We're gonna look for Himalayan takins tomorrow.
Once the landslide is cleared off the road.
Yeah.
You're listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
Welcome to the Mammal Watching podcast with me, John Hall in New York.
And me, Charles Foley, in Minneapolis.
Great to see you, Charles. Haven't seen you for, well, apart from this morning and yesterday, for months it feels like. So how have you been?
I've been very well, thank you. And I wanted to talk today about an article that I came across a couple of weeks ago. And it was something that actually came across my social media feed. And at first I thought it was just spam. But then I looked a little more closely and realized it actually came from a reliable source, which eventually led me to the published study. So this was a study carried out on Canada lynx in northern Maine over the course of many years. And they put radio collars on 85 lynx, and then they investigated the causes of mortality. And what they found was really fascinating, because the main cause of mortality was predation. And the main predator was not wolves or packs of coyotes, which is what I would have expected, but instead it was fishes. And, fishes are part of the mustelid family, and basically they're big weasels, and they look, like a big pine marten.
Yeah.
They're just not that large, right? So the researchers found that the fishes had definitely killed 14 lynx. 9 females, 5 males, and had likely killed 2 more females.
Wow.
And there were a further 2 lynx, which had also been killed by some predator, but they couldn't actually figure out what the predator was. And what was interesting is that this wasn't just kittens being killed. 13 of the 14 lynx that were killed were adults. And these had established home ranges. And when they looked at the carcasses afterwards, they found that the weights and the bone marrow suggested that these animals were healthy animals or had been in a reasonable condition, right? So because most of the mortality had occurred in winter, they were able to sort of recreate the hunting events by just looking at what was happening with the snow. And it seems that 10 of the lynx had been killed when they were sleeping or resting in a hollow. Although there were 2 cases where the lynx had actually been chased and killed by a fisher.
Wow.
And there were limited signs of struggle, apparently, at the sleeping sites. So what it looks as though was happening was that the fishers would find a hollow with a sleeping lynx, crawl in, and then kill the lynx with a bite to the back of the head or the neck. And what's really interesting to me is just fishers are so much smaller than lynx. So a male lynx will weigh between, let's say, 8 and 15 kilos, and a female will weigh about 7 to 10 kilos. And if you take the largest male fishers, they might be 5 or 6 kilos. So they're basically killing animals 2 or 3 times their size, and they're killing carnivores, they're killing predators, which are obviously very capable of defending themselves. So, we all know about honey badgers and wolverines having ferocious reputations, but it seems that when it comes to other carnivores, the fishers can be just as dangerous. So yeah, I found this really fascinating about interspecific behavior, which personally I'd never heard about.
Wow, that's extraordinary. Imagine that, sleeping lynx being snuck up on by a fisher and grabbed by the back of the neck. Wow. The fishers, they're powerful animals, and I know that porcupines are one of their favorite things to eat, but to take a lynx is a whole new story. And I thought they were mainly arboreal hunters as well. So lynxes aren't sleeping in trees, so they obviously do some damage on the ground too when they want to. Wow.
Yeah. There's all these things about these mustelids that we didn't know, and then we're slowly learning about, which is great.
Yeah, it is. And that also segues us into China, which we'll be talking about. When I started my trip in China, I was in Qinghai in Sichuan, and the ranger there had this incredible film on his phone of 2 yellow-throated martins taking down a muntjac in a stream. And it's like quite distressing to watch. This poor muntjac is screaming. But again, I mean, it's not a carnivore, obviously, but it's a much, much larger animal. And these martins just, they kill it with ease. And it's terrifying to watch them jumping across the rocks in the middle of that river and taking that thing down. So mustelids take no prisoners. They're extraordinary, extraordinary animals. They really are, all of them.
Yeah, no, these mustelids are not to be trifled with.
Not at all, no. Wow. Well, that takes us into China. We were both in China on different trips in May, and we thought this would be the podcast would be a nice way to have a chat about what we got up to and our reflections. Where were you, Charles?
So I was mostly in Qinghai province. So this is up on the Tibetan plateau, and we flew in to a little town up there called Golmud, and then did a circle. So basically drove from Golmud to the Gouli Valley. And from there, we drove to Yushu, which is the town where most people would actually fly into. And then from there, went up to a couple of other wildlife areas, one called Zidoi, and then up to Kekexli, and then back to Golmud. So that was our trip. And you were also in Qinghai. What did you do? What was your route?
So I was in China for 30 days. So I did all sorts of things. I had a quick trip to Tangzhou in Sichuan just for a couple of days to catch up with friends and try and see a hog badger properly. Then I went down to Yunnan for about 10 to 12 days because it's a place that I thought had great mammal watching potential and hadn't really been mammal watched as far as I could tell. And I was right. Then up to Qinghai, where you were. Didn't do as much as you up there. I wanted to check out this famous Gouli Valley. So we flew into Jining, and we also went to see Chinese mountain cats at a new for the mammal watching world site near there. And then a couple of days in that amazing Gouli Valley. And then from there, I flew down to Guangxi province to see a primate or two, and then across to the southeast on a wild goose chase for Chinese pangolins, which I didn't see, and ended up in Nanjing giving a talk to the media. So yeah, a very busy 30 days, but a very, very enjoyable and productive. Excellent. So what were your impressions of China? What did you think of it?
I loved it. Obviously, I'd spoken to Martin Royal about it. We had communicated with Sid Francis. So I'd obviously heard a lot about the place, the area. But actually, it was talking to Stuart Chapman when we were on the Sulawesi trip together. And he said that he had been on one of Martin's trips and that it was some of the most spectacular scenery that he had seen. And my eldest daughter was doing a year at university in Hong Kong. So we figured, hey, Hong Kong, it's only a 5-hour flight from Tibetan Plateau. It's like, would have been practically sacrilegious not to have gone up there. So that's what we did. And my main goal was to try and show my girls and Lara, my wife, a snow leopard. And of course, the main place that people go is Ladakh and Hemis National Park, and they have pretty good success at the moment. But it's pretty high. You're camping. You're spending a lot of time sitting in one place, and it can be pretty cold. And then over the years, people started going to Mongolia, Uzbekistan now, and then I think it was about 3 years ago, wasn't it? Maybe 4, that we started hearing about these Valley of the Cats in the Tibetan Plateau. And I figured, hey, people are seeing not just snow leopards, but also lynx, Pallas's cats, and a whole bunch of other really interesting animals over there. Maybe that would be a good place to go, where we could hopefully find some of these species in relatively comfortable circumstances. So that's what we did. And there was a little bit of confusion as to what the Valley of the Cats meant, wasn't there? Yeah. Because when we had interviewed Terry Townsend, he had talked about a Valley of the Cats, so a valley that they'd found up in the Tibetan Plateau, which they call the Valley of the Cats. But that valley was close to Yushu, the city of Yushu, and that area is now no longer open to foreigners. And I'm not sure why. Do you know the reason for that?
Yeah, the original Valley of the Cats was set up, and it's now been put inside the core area of Three Rivers National Park. Uh-huh. So it's closed to tourists, except I don't think it is completely, because I've been given permission, I believe, to visit next year with an expert mammal watching group. So I think they're still letting a very few people in there, but it's generally closed because it's become the core area of national parks in China are pretty much sacrosanct.
Right. Okay. That was a reason then. So this other valley, Gouli Valley, that was our first and primary destination. And flew into Golmud. You drive for about 5-6 hours, and then you get into the area around the Gouli Valley. And in the past, people had been able to stay in some accommodation in Gouli Valley itself. Yeah. But the Chinese authorities are they're pretty concerned about sort of foreigners in that area, and they want foreigners to stay in government-approved hotels. And so the nearest government-approved hotel, unfortunately, is an 1.5-hour drive away. And so you have to stay at that hotel, then drive in the morning to the valley, and then you can go out looking for animals, have lunch, and get some kip at the center over there, and then go out in the afternoon, and then drive back in the evening. So it does make for very long days, but oh my goodness, what an amazing place. I don't know what your impressions were, John.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I was trying to get to the bottom of this, why you couldn't stay in the valley anymore, because obviously it'd make it more attractive. And there are all these, everything in China, there's like rumors flying around. My impression was it was just that there was a bit of a dodgy operation going on with letting people stay what really wasn't a licensed hotel. And so the government had cracked down on this, just like New York City has cracked down on Airbnbs. And they're just saying you can only stay in proper hotels, we don't want. So that is the only drawback of that place. But to be able to stay in a warm, comfortable hotel on a soft bed with a hot shower and then be looking at a snow leopard 3 hours later it's a far cry from camping in the winter in Ladakh. Yeah, it's a wonderful area.
The thing about Ladakh is that most of the landscape in those higher elevations, it's mostly rock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? And you go in the winter. So it has a certain charm, but it's not what you call beautiful. Whereas these valleys were just stunning. And the thing is, you don't have to go in the winter. You can go in the middle of summer as well, when there's grass all around, etc. And there are 3 main valleys where people go to look for the snow leopards. And the person who had sort of set this all up is an amazing individual called Robao. And I think, John, both you and I agree that Robao has probably the best eyes of any guide that we've ever been out with.
Absolutely.
For spotting things.
Yeah, he's an extraordinary guy. My friend who was with me in China, Chan, knows Rubao quite well. And he obviously thinks a great deal of him. And Rubao, apparently, when he was a kid, the government insisted that one person from every village goes to a school. And there was kind of a lottery. And I think it was a lottery that no one really wanted to win because none of the kids wanted to leave. But Rubao won the lottery and was sent off to school for a couple of years. And he learned to, I guess he learned Chinese and he learned to write in Chinese rather than just Tibetan. Then he came back and he, I think he wanted to maybe do something a bit different with his life compared to everyone else. He was a local politician for a while. And now he kind of runs the valley. He loves to lead this convoy of cars every day. And give people a chance to experience the land he loves, and to talk to people and to meet people. But oh my God, his eyes! He, like I don't know how far your furthest snow leopards were, but the ones we found, they were, I think, somewhere between 2 and 3 kilometers away when you saw them in binoculars. We drove down the road at speed for at least 1 kilometer. To look at them again, where he could confirm they were snow leopards, and they were still specks in binoculars. So he is just an extraordinary guide with an amazing knowledge of that valley and eyesight. And I would imagine, I don't know what you think, but I don't see any reason why that valley is particularly any different to any of the other valleys in that region, other than that you've got Rubao driving around finding the animals.
Yeah, I agree. I suspect all of that area has good populations of snow leopard. The density of wildlife in general was really high over there, and the animals are really tame. So clearly they're not being harassed in any way. They're definitely not being shot. And whether that's the same in other valleys or not, I don't know. But what you do is you can either drive around by yourself if you have your own guide, look for things, but clearly the best thing to do is go with Rubao. Yeah. And for most of the time we were there, we were the only vehicle. The final day, there was one other vehicle. And I think, John, you went at a time when there was a public holiday in China.
I had like 8 vehicles one morning, which was like massive congestion for the valley, apparently. Right. But there was nothing for China in other places where you saw the pictures of the holiday rush. So that's about as busy as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in 4 days that we were there was just one other vehicle. And he drives his own vehicle, you drive behind, and you're scanning. And he, first of all, we stopped at a place where he knew that there was a palace cat. Looked around, then eventually found it on the side of a hill, a little distance away. It was probably sort of 300 or 400 meters away. Got great views of it. That was brilliant. And so we sat there just watching the palace cat, and he drove on a little bit and then called and said, "Okay, I have snow leopard. Come and see."
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's using 8 by 32 power binoculars. right? He's not even sort of looking through telescopes or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing about snow leopards is they are so well camouflaged that the moment they go off the top of a ridge, I can find them on the top of a ridge. But the moment they drop down against the sort of rocky backgrounds, it's so difficult to find them. And you just lose them so easily. So he called us over and he had them in a scope. And it was a adult female that was pregnant and her last year's female offspring. And they were moving around together. And it was great. We saw them interacting. We saw them fighting with each other, walking all along the cliff. It was fantastic. And these were probably about maybe 500-600 meters away. So difficult to find just because they had been silhouetted or not silhouetted against the ridges, but they had been against rocks. But these ones were not that far away. But the next day, he saw some, and I think they were about 2.5 kilometers.
Right.
And it was astonishing how he saw that. But in total, we saw 5 snow leopards in 4 days, 5 different ones. And he says that a couple of years ago, they did a survey in those 3 valleys, and they counted 15 different snow leopards.
Wow.
Now, some of those might have been young, but that is an astonishing density. I don't know the acreage of these valleys, but they're not that big. Yeah. And so, this has to be one of the highest densities of snow leopards anywhere on the planet. And as you know, you've got this abundance of other animals. Of course, you've got your marmots and your black-lipped pikers over there. There are lots of Tibetan foxes. Mm-hmm. We saw a number of wolves. The blue sheep, of course, are pretty much everywhere. So you've got your entire collection of sort of Himalayan high valley mammals right there. It's really a remarkable place.
Yeah, we saw badgers as well, which are quite unusual Asian badgers there. We got the weasel, the Himalayan mountain weasel. I think we missed the lynx by about 5 seconds that Ruba had seen when we were busy looking for lynxes elsewhere. That just dipped over the ridge as we arrived. We missed that. And the other thing they see there are the northern dholes, the wild dogs up at the top of the valley. They see those, sounds like about once a week, and they sound like a really cool subspecies, very fluffy and different to the ones in India. But yeah, everything is there, and it's extraordinary. I have a little recording we made of we weren't there as long as you, but the first morning, in about 4 hours, we saw so much good stuff culminating in snow leopards. And Ichan and I recorded a little clip of our elated mood after we'd seen the snow leopards along with everything else in this ridiculously short period of time. Oh, I'll just play that now. So it's the 1st of May, and we finally got to the famous Gouli Valley here in Qinghai, about 6 hours drive from Jining. We've been here for 4 hours, and we've seen, wait for it, several wolves, about 40 blue sheep, 12 Tibetan foxes, a Pallas's cat distantly, Tibetan antelope, plateau piker everywhere, of course, a woolly hare, Kiang, there was fresh snow overnight, and now we're looking at 2 snow leopards. They're probably over 1 kilometre away, but you can tell they're snow leopards even through the binoculars. So what a place. In 4 hours, seeing all that, it's extraordinary. And I think a lot of it's because of the local guide here, Rubar, who's got incredible eyes. He saw these snow leopards from, we must have been 2.5 kilometres, 3 kilometres.
At least.
When he first saw them in his bins, and God knows how. These binoculars, not a spotting scope. They're just specks. Incredible place, incredible. So let's see. We're watching the snow leopards now. They're standing up. There's blue sheep, 30 blue sheep, much lower down the mountain below them. The snow has pushed them down. So, of course, we're hoping the snow leopards are going to come down and hunt. We will see.
Yeah, so sitting there, being able to show the girls these snow leopards and seeing them so well, it was just absolutely magical. And here are some conversations with the girls about the sighting.
I'm here with my daughter, Ellesmere. Ellesmere?
Yeah.
You've just seen 2 snow leopards.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind right now?
They are so cool. I watched one of them use its tails as like a little blanket, and wow, they're incredible. And I feel very lucky.
Okay, and here with my daughter, Sierra. So, Sierra, you have just seen a Pallas's cat and 2 snow leopards within the space of about 20 minutes. What are your thoughts?
This is the most incredible experience I think I've ever had regarding any mammal watching, and that comes from someone who grew up in Tanzania too. And I think I have no words for what I'm watching right now. It's absolutely amazing. With them being so elusive and hard to see, you kind of lose hope, and then once you finally see it, it doesn't feel real. It's amazing.
It's true, isn't it? You're going along and you're thinking, there's no way that you're ever going to see something in this huge, huge landscape. But if you go out with the right guides, then you see it.
It's even luckier just to be the only people in like the whole valley. There's absolutely no one else here. We have this whole place to ourselves. We have the Pallas cat to ourselves, both of these snow leopards, and having it be a pregnant mother with her 1-year-old cub just makes it even cooler.
So it's the next day, and we're driving along, and Robao has stopped and is scanning for Pallas's cats. And then all of a sudden he turns and starts pointing, and the guy says he's seen a snow leopard. And he's pointing at a mountain probably about 700 meters away. So I'm looking at the mountain, I can't see anything. And the guy said, no, he's pointing at the far mountain. And bugger me backwards with a barge pole. The mountains, it's over 2 kilometers away. And I look, and there is this, like, stick insect of a snow leopard standing on the top of this mountain. It's like, how does this guy do it? It's absolutely unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. So, yeah, I've got a new hero, and his name is Robao.
I saw the Instagram post from Sierra and probably Lara. I think probably everyone but you, Charles, of some of this, how excited and happy everyone was. So that's really great.
Right. And lynx-wise, they were seeing amazing lynx. I think there was a mother with kittens, which was fairly habituated, which many people were seeing and taking photographs of. And that was in, I believe March. By the time we got there, those had sort of moved on. I think we did see a lynx, but it was very early in the morning. It's about 5:15, sun just coming out, ran right across the road. And it was one of those where you sort of recreate it from sort of picture in your mind. Yes, it doesn't have a long tail, had long legs, etc., etc. So anyway, not counting it, but really magical valley and a beautiful area, lots of wildlife. Rabao is wonderful, and it's, I mean, really, other than the fact that you have to drive to and from the hotel, it's a sort of perfect location. And the other thing is that during the summer, you've got some of the jaboas with really large ears, and there's also the Tibetan pygmy hamster, which we actually caught. Robao had found that something was eating the food in his house, so he put a little trap in there and caught one of these hamsters, and then released it, and it went rushing straight back into his house. So.
Yeah, we saw one on the road at night, but I really would like to see that one properly. That's very cool. Yeah.
And
if you go in the winter, the ups, apart from it's bloody cold, is the days are much shorter, so you don't have to get up so early to get them up from the hotel by dawn, and all the animals are lower. So I think the time for photography for the leopards, snow leopards, and the lynx and everything is probably better in winter because the animals are pushed down the mountains because of the snow, and the blue sheep are lower. But then in the summer you get a much more diverse set of species. So it's great all year round for different reasons, I think.
Yeah, and frankly, if anyone asks me, where should I go to see snow leopards, that is absolutely the destination that I'll say. So
yeah, I totally
great
agree.
place. We went with Sid's company, and Sid was leading another trip, so we went with his brother Zizi, and he was absolutely fantastic. Zizi, he just worked so incredibly hard. nothing was too much of a problem for him. And, he'd be waking up at 4:30 in the morning and getting in at 11. And after he had dropped us off, he'd go and clean the car and fuel it and whatnot. It was just fantastic, and loves being out in the wilderness. So after Gouli, we went to a place called Zidoi, which is a series of valleys where they also see snow leopards, there's Pallas cats, there's also lynx up there, white-lipped deer. You've got the possibility of the Himalayan musk deer, and also brown bears. So we drove to this valley, and as we drove in, we started seeing a bunch of people crawling around on their hands and knees or on their bellies. And Zizi said, "Oh, no. This could be a real problem for us." And what these people were doing was they were looking for the Tibetan caterpillar fungus. So there's a butterfly which lays eggs, and the caterpillars, they sort of bury themselves in the soil, and a certain percentage of them become infected by a fungus. And then it kills the caterpillar, and then they grow a sort of black horn out of their heads. And so there's this little horn sticks out, and it's just a little black thing about the same height as a blade of grass. And the Tibetans, they dig this up, and it is used in Chinese traditional medicine and as an aphrodisiac. And it's sort of taken on a life of its own. It's considered to be extremely luxurious. You see it for sale in the airport in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, etc. And it's very, very expensive. And what happens is that typically during the month of May, so you can only find it in a certain time of the year, they close off the entire area, and only Tibetans are allowed to go into the mountains to look for these. So they will pack up their families, everyone's off school, they go, they put up these tents, really colorful tents, and they spend the next month crawling around on their hands and knees looking for these things. And everyone does it. So for instance, when we were in Zidoi, we had to sign in with the local policeman, but he was a local Tibetan, so he was out looking for these caterpillars. So we weren't able to sign in until 9:30 in the evening when he'd finally come back. And we said, "Well, how did you do?" He said, "Oh, I only got 2." So I don't think they're very easy to find. So it's basically Tibetan gold, but they keep everyone else out. So your local Chinese, they're not allowed to go into those areas. And so Zizi was able to go and talk to the local police, and they said, "Okay, because we know that you would tourists and they're not going to be looking for these things, we'll let you in." So he wasn't sure that they'd actually open the gates for us. But anyway, we went in really early and drove around. And once again, those mountains are just magical, absolutely gorgeous. And we did see a brown bear mother with 2 young. And the local subspecies over there, some people call it the blue bear, but it has a white patch around its neck. And this is a bit of an issue because this is obviously at the time when the brown bears have their young, and it's when the Tibetans are going around crawling up into the mountains. And apparently the bears kill people every year who are looking for these caterpillars. So that's a bit of a problem. But anyway, just stunning place. And we only spent 1 day over there. I would have liked to have spent 2 or 3, but again, really, really worthwhile going to see it. And from there, we drove up to the high plateau Kekexli, which is where you get the chiru antelope, you get the wild yaks, lots of kiang. And this is one of the areas that George Schaller had worked in, and he had been able to protect that area. And you just sort of drive along the main road, and we saw a couple of wild yaks, and you can tell they're wild yaks because they're just so much bigger than the normal yaks, got big horns, etc. And yeah, the chiru as well. We saw not many, just a couple of groups of chiru. These are these beautiful antelope, and they have some of the softest wool of any animal in the world. It's called shatush. It means the king of wolves. And because of that, they had been really heavily hunted in the past. But numbers are now sort of coming back up again, and they migrate pretty big distances. in those areas, but a lot of their range is now protected. And the Chinese government has had a no hunting order put across the whole area. And when the Chinese government says something, people sort of abide by it. So
Exactly, yeah.
the animals are not hunted. So we saw a lot there. And just to finish it off, we then went and spent a day in the yak reserve, wild yak reserve, and we saw about 200, maybe 250 yaks in this area.
That many.
So yeah, and over there, one of the things that happens is that the local yak herders, they actually bring their female yaks in to be bred by the wild males to sort of improve their stock. So you do see, some of the domestic yaks there as well. And the main thing that I would say about that area, that what really stuck with me, is that it feels so isolated and you're the only one there. On the entire trip, we never saw another foreigner. And you are in these areas alone. It's like being in Yellowstone or Jasper or Banff and being the only vehicle there, right? It's that level of beauty, of mountains, of densities of wildlife, and it's just you. So I can't say enough about that part of China. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I tend to love high altitude areas anyway, but this really took my breath away, and I would highly recommend it. People want to go and first of all see the cats and snow leopards, etc. Great area, but just for the beauty, Stuart Chapman was absolutely right. It is stunning. And then fantastic things like chirus and wild yaks. They're all there by the dozen. So an amazing trip.
Amazing place. Yeah, I quite agree. It's very special. I'm glad to hear the rest of it is still as isolated as it was when I was there 10 years ago, because I only went this time to Gouli. I'm actually going to get a group together for a trip next year, so I'll shamelessly plug that now. And hopefully there'll be information I can put in the notes about that. We're going to get right into the original Valley of the Cats. I think we've got permission to get into 3 rivers, it sounds like. So it's going to be back to Gouli Valley as well. So yeah, it's I'm looking forward to getting back there. You've made it even more exciting with your tales. So I can talk a bit about what I did now. In addition to the few days I had in Qinghai, I really just talk about Yunnan, I think, because it's another really spectacular area. The scenery is out of this world. I guess birders have been going there for a while, but I don't know of any mammal watchers who've really gone in there other than to see the Yunnan snub-nosed monkey. And I was sure there was good stuff, but everyone I talked to, including Chinese guides, no one could really help when I was asking, because everyone does Sichuan. The mammal people, they do Sichuan and they do Qinghai, but no one seemed to know. So I was trying to figure out what to do, even what sort of route. And there was stories about, well, this area is closed and you can't get in there and it's closed to foreigners. But there's a guy on Instagram I've been friends with, a guy called Ichan Wu, and he was writing to me saying, you should come over, we'll do some stuff. And it turns out he's a professional biologist. He's a young guy. He's like, I don't know, maybe 30. Super nice person. But in addition to being a professional biologist, he's also a very, very keen mammal watcher. And he's been following me in the website for 10 years or so. He runs a WeChat group. WeChat is the kind of WhatsApp plus of China. I don't know. It's a sort of social media thing they'll use. He has a WeChat group of 500 mammal watchers that he runs. And that's the first group. There's an overflow group now of several hundred more. So there's a lot of mammal watchers in China. And he was just really keen to show me around. And these mammal watchers, of course, are sharing information. And a lot of them are also birders, so they're going into these spots. So several species I thought would be impossible to see, and guides had said were impossible to see, are actually really quite easy now in Yunnan. And areas are open to foreigners, they're not closed, like I've been told by several people. So we went over to Yunnan with a whole list of things we wanted to see. But 3 species in particular I was really keen on seeing were Skywalker gibbons, which I just love the name. The Himalayan takin, the large kind of cow antelope thing that's different species to the one you get in Sichuan, and Short-ridged langur, which is a mega primate that was very endangered and right on the Myanmar border and was thought to be almost impossible as far as I could tell. Very few photos of it online, at least when you search in English. And we saw them all super easily. we flew into a place called Mangxi, which was lovely. It's I guess a town popular with Chinese tourists, famous for its mangoes and its massages, both of which I enjoyed. And then from there, we went up to the border of Myanmar, and it's a long drive. It was 2 days that poor Ichan had to do on his own. We went to an area called Dulongjiang, right on the border with Myanmar. So there were a bunch of roadblocks not roadblocks, police checkpoints on the way, and they all checked my passport meticulously and made sure I had my entry stamp, and then very politely waved me on through. So there were no problems, but there were checks. And it's stunning scenery. You're going up to these snow-capped mountains. You're in the foothills of the Himalayas. You go over this mountain pass through a very long tunnel. And then you're driving along a river looking down. This river is where they see takin sometimes. And then you drop down a bit lower into the wetter forest. And there's a little village right on the edge of the national park, pretty much in Myanmar, where birders go. And another very comfortable hotel. Every hotel we stayed in was lovely, like Japanese standards of cleanliness and, heated toilet seats and all that stuff, which is so different from the China I remember from 10 years ago. And it's a little lodge where birders go, and there must be some good birds there, but they often see short ridges langurs. We had to navigate landslides. The road actually got closed just after we went through it. A massive landslide came down that shut it for 36 hours. But luckily we got through in time. And then when the rain stopped, the hotel was saying, look, they've been seeing the langurs right by the village, and it was pouring with rain for the first 12 hours we were there. But by lunchtime, on our first morning, we got there the night before. By lunchtime, the rain stopped. We went out, and 5 minutes later, thanks to our thermal scopes, we were looking at short ridges langurs just over the village. They were quite far, but we watched them for a couple of hours, like a bunch of them just there, munching away, feeding, and a beautiful langur. And one that even people like Cheryl Antonucci, who spent her life researching primates, I think had no idea they were that easy to see there. And the great thing about China, traveling around China, it's like a mammal watching nirvana on a sort of independent trip like this one, because you don't really need to make any plans. The Chinese people are super flexible. Like they've just designed life around tourists, around mammal watching tourists. So you can make hotel bookings the last minute. You can book a hotel and then change your mind the last minute. If you want to extend your checkout time and get a sleep for a couple of hours, you just pay them like $5. And instead of checking out at 12, you check out at 4 p.m. All of this stuff makes it really, really easy to make plans on the fly. Even flights, the Chinese people don't book a flight till 2 or 3 days before. So we were making up the route as we went, depending on how we did. And so saw the langurs, like lots of high fives, and then, okay, let's go and try for the takins now. We'll try for those tomorrow. And so the trip went on day by day. And the takins there's an area by this long, long tunnel. An area also, the tunnel, that they've seen woolly flying squirrels up there. One group of birds got them at night, that's another mega. And if we'd had more time and someone could have shared the driving with Ichan, I would have loved to have tried for that one that night. But we went up there looking for the takin, and there was a spot the birders had recommended. We paced around in the daytime and couldn't find them, but sure enough, on dusk, a bunch of these takin emerged from the dense forest, from the forest to graze in a little sort of clearing by the river. Very different looking to the ones in Sichuan, much, much darker with a kind of golden back to what I think were the males. So that was the other mega achieved there. Again, I don't know of any reports on mammal watching of people seeing them, but the birders knew, and the mammal watchers in China knew, and we're only too happy to point us in that direction. And then from there in Yunnan, we did a long drive back to Mangxi, and there are some very easy primates, good primates to see around there. There's Shan State Langur we saw, where they've been taking tourists. The village take people every day to see the langurs. There was a whole bunch of people there when we were there waiting at 10 a.m. and they've got them coming to this waterfall where they've come since time immemorial. We went to a place called Gouli Valley, where you can really spotlight right. This is absolutely on the border with Myanmar. There's a fence. You're driving along one half of the road is a fence with Myanmar on the other side. And then on the Chinese side, you've got Yunnan giant flying squirrels and civets and all sorts of really good squirrels in the daytime, and other great stuff around there. I think spotted linsang occasionally and all sorts. And again, little birding lodges to stay at. Really, really nice place. But probably the most exciting primate there was Skywalker gibbons, which are iconic gibbon species, very, very rare. And And when I talked to guides in China about these, they said there's one part where they are there, they're being studied. Foreigners aren't allowed in. I heard stories about one foreigner going in there and getting arrested because he wasn't supposed to be in the park, and then rumors there was somewhere else in a hotel where the chef can take you to look for them maybe, but it's very risky. Well, not in this place, which was near Mangxi. It's about 3 hours from Mangxi Airport. There's a village where they've been showing people, foreigners, these skywalker gibbons for 10 years. A bunch of Americans were there 10 years ago, they were telling me, some of the first foreigners to see them. And it took us 5 minutes. Ichian didn't know anything about the place, or he didn't really sort of know the village, or some of these villages don't even seem to have names. I can't figure out China. So we went to this place, and we knew there was a hotel we could stay in, and we thought it was going to be very simple and very basic. And there was a lot of roadworks, so the road was all dirt going up to the village. And we get there, and there's this kind of Japanese-style onsen with a hot tub in every room from thermal springs. A lovely cabin. So that was another wonderful place to stay. And I go, well, let's get up at dawn to go and look for the gibbons. And the local guides, no, you can have a sleep. We'll go and find them for you in the morning. And when we found them, we'll let you know. And you can meet us about 7:30. So I was a bit nervous because the gibbons only call early, don't they? Oh, this is very risky. 7:30 we went to meet the guides, and they found the gibbons 5 minutes from where the car was. And we had another couple of hours with, I think, 3 gibbons just waking up and hanging around, and then eventually they swung off whooping. And I have another little recording here of me and Ichan talking after we'd seen these, and it was another wonderful experience. So Ichan and I are here in Yingjiang. We stayed in a wonderful little hot spring spa last night. I didn't know what to expect here. It's a little village. I thought we'd be sleeping in a hut, but we're in a luxury hotel. And this morning it took us 5 minutes to see skywalker gibbons. I thought this species was very hard to see. I thought the areas were all restricted, but no, there's a place here where tourists have been visiting for 10 years to see them. And we had great views. We watched a family of 3 for 2 hours probably.
Yeah.
There's 13 habituated individuals here. But Ichian just told me a very funny thing about the local name of the monkey.
Yeah, the local name for this gibbon is called Jiami Wuhu. Literally means a monkey that goes woohoo.
They do go woohoo, so it's a very good name. Very cool. So, I mean, the short of it is, I think this is Yunnan, but I think in every place in China now there's potential to have similar adventures with these, to be the only, like you said, I didn't see another Westerner for the first 3 weeks. It was only when I got to Gouli Valley, there were two Americans in the sort of convoy who both had gone there because of mammal watching, incidentally, even though they weren't really mammal watchers, which I found pleasing to hear. There were no foreigners I saw down there. People were extremely kind and welcoming. Everyone was very excited to see someone that looked as strange as me, and they were giving us beers in restaurants and wanting selfies. So that's all a lot of fun as well. But to be going in there kind of telling the world about what people can see, I think can only be good, I hope, for ecotourism in China, because the more I think foreigners come in, the more the government will realize this is great for China, not just for the economy, but for, I guess, China's standing in the world and its reputation, and promoting, more foreigners coming in and enjoying the country and seeing how great it is. Because, let's be honest, it gets a pretty bad press in the West, and it's so different when you're there. It's just the comfort, how nice people are, how incredibly safe it is. It must be the safest country in the world. It's as safe as Japan. You can leave your wallet in a park and go and get it the next day and it'll still be there. That kind of safe. Maybe not the driving always, but that's also a lot safer. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was the technology there. I don't know if you saw much of the high-tech China in Qinghai, possibly not, but you would have seen it in Hong Kong, I imagine. Robots delivering room service in every hotel and robots in every train station. It's a lot of fun to see. But the thing that blew me away, which I'd never heard of before, was in Sichuan, and we get picked up by the local friend of Frank, who was my other Chinese friend, was with me, and he's got an electric vehicle. And first time I go, well, electric vehicles aren't much use for mammal watching trips because you're in remote areas and they take ages to charge and all that. And I asked him about charging. He goes, oh, no problem. And he pulled over a half an hour later on the outskirts of Chengdu to a little structure at the side of the road, like the size of a single car garage, a concrete structure. And he parks the car outside, pushes a button, the car reverses automatically into this thing. And he goes, "Will be 2 minutes." And you could see the cameras under the car was showing like a kind of forklift platform thing. He comes out, clamps to the bottom of the car, takes out the whole battery, slides it into a recharge bay in the side of the building, replaces it with a fully charged battery. And literally 120 seconds later, we were on the way with a full battery. It's just mind-blowing, the stuff that's happening there. It really is.
Right. Yeah. What's interesting is that the Chinese government has stipulated that gas vehicles, petrol vehicles with internal combustion engines need to have a blue number plate, and electric vehicles have a green number plate. And we spent a day in Xi'an, which is a city of 13 million people, and we estimated that about 65 to 70% of all the vehicles on the road are electric now.
Wow.
And that includes, your private vehicles, your taxis, your buses, your even cement mixers, right? I mean, they've figured it out. And for many Chinese, they've simply skipped over the internal combustion engine entirely. They've just gone straight from either nothing or motorbikes or something like that, straight to electric vehicles. And there's all these electric vehicle companies over there that I'd never heard of producing what seem to be good vehicles. So yeah, it's a fascinating place. And I agree, wherever we went, the people were incredibly friendly. Of course, I was traveling with 3 blondies, so we really attracted attention. Not me, but them. And so everyone wanted their Snapchat and have their pictures taken and whatnot. But just lovely folks, and extremely reasonably priced. The meal for 4 is like $12 to $15, and I would say that China really is the sort of new frontier in mammal watching. Very few Westerners have really gone off the beaten path over there. And there is as you say, there's a growing cohort of Chinese who are incredibly enthusiastic. And there is just so much potential in that place. And there's so many places where, as you say, your species, which people have thought that are impossible to see or you're not allowed in, etc. But it just requires someone like you are doing to go over there and actually check it out. And I really, really enjoyed my time there, and I highly recommend for people to go.
Exactly. China is the new black, as Carlos Bocos might say. But it's it's so many more trips to come to that wonderful country. I can't wait. I hope we can go back together sometime and enjoy the park together. But yeah, I recommend it to everyone. It's all happening in China. It really is.
Yep, totally agree with you, John, and hope to see you in China one day.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
You've been listening to Mammalwatching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.